Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan LaCount. I'm a UX designer at Agillion, and today I'm going to talk about sustainable UX. Let's start here. Nature does not create waste. Nature is a continuous cycle, with waste being at the end of the beginning. Today I want to encourage the widespread adoption of sustainability throughout business. And for this to happen, I think UX needs to play a bigger role in business every day. So we're in Burlington, and people are pretty familiar with sustainability, but let's run over some cliff notes really fast and start with who we are as users. So we're on planet Earth. It's a pretty small planet. It's orbiting around the sun. And about 1.5 million years ago, our ancestors harnessed fire. We started using tools, invented the wheel. Fast forward, we're discovering radio signals and the internet. But spoiler alert, even though we're in the most scientifically advanced and technologically advanced era, we're not always doing a really great job of harnessing that. We have a pretty big problem. Our rapid progress has caused rapid use of resources and creation of waste. We're kind of under the impression as users that everything is disposable, so we're creating, using, and tossing things, not really thinking about it. Fortunately, this is a problem we can measure, so what are our metrics telling us? Well, first of all, this is a problem. So our biocapacity versus our footprint. We're using way more than we're replacing or way more than we have at our disposal. This is especially bad in developed countries. And if everybody was acting the way that we do in developed countries, we'd need like 5 Earths to sustain that habit. So we have 1 Earth, 5. Yeah, that doesn't really work. Greenhouse gases are especially bad, so power stations, industrial processes, even our waste management and our recycling initiatives cause greenhouse gases, and I think we all know that these contain chemicals, they go out into the atmosphere, they stay there for tens to hundreds of years, so not good things. We really have a stuff problem. So a long time ago, things were pretty rare. They were only accessible to the rich or wealthy and powerful. Now everything is accessible by the click of a mouse and kind of dropped magically from the sky via Amazon drone to our doorstep. E-waste is its own sort of problem. So this is a traditional electronic waste shredder. Electronics are made up of tons of different materials that all need to be recycled in different ways. But unfortunately, the way that we're doing it now, we kind of just crush everything up and it goes into big bins. Sometimes we'll pull out chips and stuff, but mostly it's all mingled in there together, and it's really a lost opportunity for proper disposal. And even your Netflix binge has a carbon footprint. So the internet, telecommunication, and cloud computing, if that was a country, it would be the 6th largest user of energy, or electricity. And over 8 million tons of CO2 is produced from this a year. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has said with 95% certainty that humans are the main cause of climate change. I'm just saying, don't shoot the messenger. That's just what they said. And for the first time, even the Pope is on board. He's pretty active on Twitter. He's talking about it a lot. So as a society, we just haven't figured out globally how we can be a sustainable community. And actually, we're wired as people not to care. Climate change and sustainability and excessive consumerism, it really is kind of uncertain to us. It's not immediately threatening. George Marshall actually wrote a great book called Don't Think About It. And it's about how we're wired to not care about things. We still have food on the table and gas to put in the car and the water hasn't run out yet. So we're kind of just going about our days. And so we can't undo the damage that we've done, but we definitely have the skills and technology to reduce further damage. What does UX have to do with any of this? As designers and developers, it actually has a lot to do with what we do. Our hands are all over the conception, creation, and delivery of products every day. Let's start with sustainable design. Wikipedia told me that sustainable design is the philosophy of designing physical objects, the built environment, and services to comply with the principles of social, economic, and ecological sustainability. It's kind of a mouthful, so let's unpack that. Physical objects, this computer, the built environment, this room, and services, I guess this conference, they all have a user experience, whether it was intentional or not. And to comply with the principles of blah, 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 we can just sort of simplify that as it's safe and responsible for people, the economy, and our Earth. So I think we can define sustainable UX as the practice of creating physical objects, environments, and services that encourage healthy social and environmental habits for the user. If we create things with a lighter impact, our users are going to have a lighter impact. And UX in itself is really sustainable design. They're very similar. They're systems thinking instead of one-time use thinking. So let's get this out of the way first. Sustainable is not synonymous with sacrifice. We need to kind of dismantle the notion that doing something good for another person or for the Earth doesn't mean it has to be uncomfortable for you or not enjoyable. If you've been into the LEED certified buildings, at least around here, they're swanky. They're really nice. And they're also super efficient and were built to the highest standards of efficiency. Also, all these are in Vermont. But we do need to accept the desire is no longer a justification for production. So just because you want something, maybe doesn't mean you should have it. We've always sidelined products that don't meet this very high standard of desirability. But a new standard needs to arise where we want things that are recyclable, sustainable, or otherwise have a lighter impact. So again, how can we help? How can we use our skills, everyone in this room, to make better choices that affect our footprint positively? Well, first we can create thought-provoking user experiences. We can present the user with information and they can make their own discoveries. We're not really pushing an agenda, but we are kind of redirecting their behavior and making them reflect on it. A good example is at City Market or Whole Foods. They have these waste stations and they present you with compost, recycling, and garbage. This is it's an interactive process. The user has things in their hand and then they have to make decisions. There's pictures and text to help them understand. Usually instead of garbage or trash, it'll say to the landfill. And again, that's not like pushing an agenda. It's not an opinion. It's just fact. And hopefully users will kind of rethink what they're putting into the landfill. Another good example is 7th Generation's Come Clean campaign. They're supporting transparency and legislation for manufacturers having to put on all of their ingredients or components in their labeling. And they're just one of many to do this. A lot of people are getting on board with the transparency and the sourcing and ingredients. We're presenting users with facts and letting them decide. Another way to create a thought-provoking UX is to explore the product life cycle. So educate the users, where did this product come from and what's expected of them when they're done with it. A good example is Apple's Liam. It's the 29-armed robot that disassembles our iPhones and picks out all the pieces, puts them all in different bins for proper disposal and recycling. So Liam's different than the shredders before, so that's pretty awesome. I don't want to be an Apple fangirl though, because really they should have been thinking about this a long time ago. But even though it's an afterthought, it's a welcome solution, and hopefully more Liams will be made to disassemble not only our Apple products, but all of our electronic devices. So an example where the end-to-end user experience or product lifecycle wasn't exactly thought of quite enough, I guess, are any of those single-serve coffee machines. Now these machines gift users with hot or cold beverages, or sometimes soup, I guess, through the use of plastic pods or cups. And over 9 billion of these cups are created a year, and most of them, okay, this is my opinion, I don't have a stat for this, but most of them end up in the landfill, I'm guessing, because it's difficult to recycle them. Even their inventor said, "I feel bad sometimes that I ever did it." Now these cups can be recycled, it's just kind of a more, it's involved. So you have to peel off the aluminum top, recycle that, take out the paper filter, recycle that, dump out the organic matter like the coffee grounds, compost that, hopefully, and then recycle the plastic cup. It's just not really realistic. If you want to ask users to do this once a month, maybe once a week, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the nature of the single serve brewer is that you have to do it every single time. And I just don't think it's realistic for a user to want to do that. And I don't want to pick on places like Keurig or Nespresso because they're not the only products that do this. There are tons of products that make this trade-off. Ultra convenience for compounded ecological impact. And I think this is because innovation used to be about creating interesting products and just something that somebody want to use. And now innovation, you have to kind of consider a lot more things. And I'm sure if these were invented today that they would think about this a little more, so. And if this inspired you, you can go out and get a reusable filter for your single serve coffee brewer, or Burlington's own 7th generation, they have created a press, and this is a single serve without any recycling whatsoever. And I mean, okay, so I've been using a lot of Vermont examples, and I just want to say that I'm really proud of Vermont. I'm really proud of their initiative to put sustainability into our business practices. And we're really owning this market, and we're influencing others to do the same, and I just think that's kind of awesome. Go VT. So what about digital products and services? Our applications and our sites have gotten enormous in the past not few years, decade, 2 decades. The sites used to, in 1991, they started out like this. They were very simple. Some might not think that's too beautiful. I think it's kind of nice, it's really functional. And then in 2005, fast forward, we have tons of rollovers and jQuery and images. So our sites have gotten huge. The use of Retina images and video backgrounds have really bloated these sites. So we really need to think about optimizing our sites to use less energy. The bigger the site, every time it's accessed, the more electricity is going to be used, the bigger footprint. So first of all, we can optimize our code, minify your CSS and JavaScript, be mindful of large libraries. So if you only want to use one part of a huge library, maybe just take a minute and write it yourself instead of, like an example, don't import Bootstrap if you only want the buttons. Full disclosure, I've done that before years ago. So in terms of design, using CSS sprites, SVGs instead of pixels, compressing your images down, optimizing them for mobile, all of these things can save tons of space. We're serving up desktop-sized images on mobile, and we don't need to do that. Being mindful of fonts, Typekit, Google Fonts, they're beautiful. I'm never going to tell you just use device fonts, even if it takes up way less space, but just be mindful and remember that sometimes the best design is less design. And green hosting. So green hosting, the servers take all of their energy from renewable sources. So getting on one of those plans, if you can, is really optimal. But basically, the less requests, the better. And sites and applications that aren't optimized, they're not only using up more energy, but they're often slow, and they're not great for your SEO. So how about in business? Digitizing everything. You can reduce your paper and ink usage and the cost of that by taking all of your administrative tasks and digitizing them. There's tons of software out there. These companies have monthly fees that probably are actually less than all of the paper, toner, and ink that you're using. Switching to the cloud is more energy efficient than having one of these insane server rooms. And you can just use this room for something else other than a ton of wires. And lastly, you can encourage remote work. Your workers are going to use less electricity that big office buildings require, and Agillion does it, and it's really awesome. So having open conversations with clients is really important too. A lot of our clients come in and they don't really know anything about development, design, or UX, and they look to us for guidance to teach them about these things. So it's natural that we would also give them suggestions on the sustainability of their business, literally and figuratively. So talk about material sourcing, talk about energy usage, and the life cycle of the product. And finally, embed sustainability into the culture and the ethos of your business. It's going to give you a leg up on the competition, and customers are really demanding stuff like that now. your stakeholders definitely will reward you. So this is the lowest percentage I saw. There's tons of stats, and upwards of 90% of people, they really value and they're going to trust a company more who takes social and environmental issues seriously, and they're responsible about it. So all of us in this room, we're all agents of change. I know that sounds kind of cliche, truly, but we do have the power to affect the status of physical, emotional, and environmental health. We impact the quality of life for not just users, but our Earth and animals on this Earth. And we are the influencers of user behavior. We can help all our users adapt healthier habits. As Gavin Belson would say, I don't want to live in a world where someone else makes the world a better place better than we do. So, also Silicon Valley, it's a funny show. Get on board with that. Yeah, so if you want more resources on this, AIGA is Design for Good. AIGA is they really cater to anybody in the creative or technical realm, but it's for designers primarily for social and environmental change. It's a really nice platform for that. Global Footprint Network has a lot of stats. It's really interesting. And then Sustainable UX is actually a new conference. It's global. You can reach it at any time. It's free. You go on right now and watch all the videos, and it's an awesome resource. Thanks.